Hey everybody, this is Tulip.
And this is Cassidy.
And you are here for an episode of The Good News, the Gospel According to AMC's Preacher.
Yay! We're back.
Finally here! And, you know, I know you had your hopes up, but that's why there's whiskey. That was a great line. There were a lot of great lines in this season opener.
There were, we talked before the cast, and you liked episode 1 better, and I liked episode 2 better,
Yeah.
so this is going to be good.
But I think we both still really liked them both, right?
Yeah, and just like with Fear the Walking Dead, when they did 2 in one night, and with Preacher they did 2 over 2 nights. But I think it really worked out to do them both so close together rather than waiting the week. Because like I said, episode 1 was good, but it didn't hook me like they both did together.
Which is so funny because episode 1 hooked me right away, and then episode 2 I was like, this is really good and I'm really enjoying this. And like I told you, there were moments that I laughed out loud during both, and it's been a long time since TV has made me do that.
Yeah, and I laughed out loud a couple of times too, so...
But I agree. I think it was good that they were aired together. At first, when I was watching episode 1, I thought, gosh, maybe we should just podcast 1 and then podcast 2 as a separate episode. And then when I watched them both, I was like, no, they really are meant to be the opener together. And
has Netflix just programmed us to binge? I mean, like, is that just it? Like, is that why we're doing this now? That like we have to we're not satisfied with just one anymore. Like,
I don't know. You know, we've postulated for quite a while now that Fear the Walking Dead is doing it because they're trying to cram all of their episodes in a particular time frame.
Right.
But I don't see that issue with Preacher, so I'm not sure why they decided to open like this.
Yeah, I don't know. And
it might be a new convention, you know?
Yeah, like I said, it was a 2 over 2 nights instead of 2 in the same night, which that's really unusual for them to do that, for anyone to do that. So, yeah, that was just an interesting way to do it, but I think it worked out. So
I do too. So The 2 episodes, let's see. The first episode, On the Road, the live views were 1.693 million. It dropped a little bit the next night with Mumbai Sky Tower. It was 1.347 million. I unfortunately do not have Live Plus 3 or Live Plus 7 numbers.
So here's the thing, like, those are really low numbers, and maybe it's because I don't actually have AMC, but I didn't see, there was not a lot of hype around this. Like, I saw some ads before some YouTube videos and things like that, but they didn't hype the premiere.
There was a fair amount of hype during Fear the Walking Dead, and I think there might have been a little bit right at the end of Prime Walking Dead.
Okay.
Because I had seen trailers with the Come On Eileen scene several times.
Oh, yeah, that's the one I kept seeing too.
So, you know, they did amp it on AMC. I'm bummed out about the numbers, and of course we have to say again that we're shell-shocked by original Walking Dead numbers, which are so huge.
Right.
That it's hard sometimes to reframe it and recognize that these are still good numbers. I mean, Preacher was smack dab in the middle of the top 25 for cable with both of these episodes.
So, and the only thing that I think the only reason why I think that they may have done the 2-nighter is because Preacher used to be on Sunday nights.
Right.
And
so it might have transitioned people.
Right. The first one was aired on a Sunday night, and the second one was aired on a Monday night, which is its new time slot, Monday nights, which I think is a brilliant move because Game of Thrones is coming back this Sunday, so you don't want to go up against that.
I think
even
you're
with
right.
DVRs.
I really think the only thing that could go up against Game of Thrones would be the original Walking Dead series.
Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I don't even think things like Sunday Night Football or Emmys get as much as Game of Thrones. So,
well, and Walking Dead pretty routinely wipes out Sunday Night Football. So
yeah, and it's not always an entirely different fan base.
Right.
There's a lot of crossover there.
Right.
So Brian. I think that Like he's listening.
Right. I don't even know. Actually, he did say that he was watching Preacher, so I need to catch up with him and see where he's at.
That's excellent. Well, we are behind. We're actually on 1 and 2, and episode 4 just aired. So, yeah, hopefully we catch up on this, and we're not like last season where we were so far behind.
You know, my plea is just that it's summer in Alaska right now, and I mean, people who don't live up here don't understand that everything else comes to a screeching halt when you're trying to cram everything into the summer.
Yeah, but I was just saying today that our summer hasn't even started. We have had nothing but monsoons for the past couple of weeks. I mean, it's been terrible here. I'm like housebound. The dogs are going crazy. We're crawling the walls. It's my grass is like 3 feet high. Yeah.
It's been really random here. Like, it was beautiful yesterday. It was beautiful for most of today. And by the time I got home from work, thunderstorms. So,
yeah, they keep calling for thunderstorms, but I don't think we've had one for like 6 years.
We get them fairly frequently up here in the summertime.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. So
what was your person? Oh, go ahead.
Well, I didn't tell you this before the podcast. I wanted to save it. So, do you know what we were doing 1 year ago today?
No.
1 year ago today was my very, very first podcast, and it was episode 2 of Preacher.
That's awesome.
So happy podcast anniversary to me.
Yes. And
yes.
I got to tell you, people love you.
Thank you.
They do. I
transitioned into a fairly recurring gig on a bunch of podcasts. So.
You did, man.
Yeah.
We're still deciding whether or not you're going to be picking up a little bit of American Gods with us, too.
So maybe I have Genesis. Maybe you guys just like my voice.
That's awesome.
So heading into ratings.
How did you rate it?
Well, okay, so I rated them both together, and like I said,
I did as well.
Yeah, I liked 2 better than 1. But I actually, and I played with a little bit of like 4.75, 4.8. I finally landed on 4.75, banging headboards. I was hoping you wouldn't take that one. I had an alternative, which I actually can't even remember right now. But yeah, 4.75 banging headboards. I really enjoyed it. You know, episode 1 of Preacher last year, like, it was just like, what the hell just happened? And I had that feeling with these 2.
I did too.
It was more like I knew what was going on. What just the hell just happened?
It was more like, oh my God, they're succeeding again.
Yeah. I was pretty stoked about these 2 because, you know, like the title of episode 1, we're on the road, and, you know, it's just, yeah, it just feels like there's going to be a lot of movement and a lot of action and a lot more comedy. You know, I really think that, you know, this season is starting off to be a lot more fun. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And we had talked a little bit about podcasting about the comics, and of course we failed miserably. But I remember you and I talking about how this season really picks up where the comic book started. And yes, there are definitely some scenes in, especially the first episode, that are pretty much out of the comic books.
Parallel, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't even have to do storyboards. They just hung the comics on the wall, and they were like, do this.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
so what was your rating?
I gave it 4.8 out of 5 parishioners in a cage.
I think that was my second one. That's so funny.
And if I had to rate them separately, I think I would probably rate the first one as a 4.9 and the second one as like a 4.7 or 4.6. I mean, still very highly rated, still enjoyed them both, just got more hooked in by the first one.
Huh. Yeah, the second one really did it for me. But what's funny is my good and my bad are from episode 1. So
So, the titles were pretty straightforward, I thought. So, on the road looking for God, right? And then the Mumbai Sky Tower was the hotel that Fiora was performing at.
Right. The amazing Ganesh.
Which I really loved the name Ganesh, because I love Ganesh. He is the destroyer of obstacles, the god who sees you along the path. But I also really loved like some of the Indian music that they were playing in the hotel. The people who were trying to do the wedding ceremony, I just thought those were really fun. And they really caught the flavor that hotel was trying for very, very well.
Yeah. And it's funny. I didn't even realize they were still in Texas. I'm like, what are they in Reno?
Right?
Like, what's going on?
It kind of felt like Reno, didn't it?
Yeah, because, I don't, other than a few reservation casinos, I really don't know, and maybe I guess like where is the boardwalk with all of the
Atlantic City.
Yeah, I don't really equate
Texas
casinos. Yeah, I don't really equate casinos with any place else besides those, Vegas or Nevada and Atlantic City.
That's really funny.
Yeah, so it took me a second to realize they were still in Texas.
I don't know, man. There were quite a number of casinos, reservation casinos in Oregon when we were traveling through Oregon.
Yes, there are. I spent my 21st birthday at one.
Oh, how funny.
Yep.
Well, so just a quick rehash of writer and directors. So the writer and directors for both episodes were the same. Sam Catlin did the writing, and he did the writing on the premiere of the whole series. And he is known also for White Oleander, with the movie with Michelle Pfeiffer, which I actually really love that movie.
I do too.
And then a movie that I think I'm going to need to watch called The Great New Wonderful. Have you ever heard of it?
I have not heard of it.
I had not either, and I looked at the information on it, and it looks really good. It has some really pretty big names. Olympia Dukakis, which people might remember her from Steel Magnolias. And Jim Gaffigan, the comedian, who I think is super funny.
Huh.
And it is set in post 9/11 New York.
Wow.
So it sounds really interesting.
Yeah, that's some serious subject matter considering his Hollywood chops, you know. He's Preacher, Breaking Bad, and also it looks like he was an actor in The Interview, which is
the Seth Rogen movie. Yes.
Yeah. So, that post 9/11 New York is a pretty serious subject matter.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then we've got, again, Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg together.
Right.
For writing episodes 1 and 2.
Of course.
I'm just going to say again, I still love Zach and Miri Make a Porno. But I thought it was kind of cool. You had mentioned it before, and I just wanted to reinforce that Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg have been friends for a long time. They were childhood friends. They've written together for a long time. So that was really neat.
Yeah.
And apparently, I want to say, no, it wasn't Pineapple Express. It was one of the other films that they were credited for. Superbad. They actually started writing that movie together when they were kids.
Oh my goodness.
And ultimately completed the movie and filmed it.
I would not have guessed that. I would have said Sausage Party was the one they wrote when they were kids.
Funny. I can see that.
Yeah, that was an interesting movie. Our friends, we went and saw that in the theater with our friends, and I'm not one to see movies like that in the theater. Normally, it's like superhero movies or
the big movies.
Yeah. So that was pretty interesting to watch. With the public en masse. We were all kind of like, should we laugh at that? It's kind of racist, but it's funny.
Oh, painful. I haven't seen it yet. So
oh, yeah.
I've seen ads for it, but...
Yeah, the grocery store does have an ethnic aisle, and
dear.
they do go down. Yeah. Yeah, so watch it alone.
Seth, watch it alone.
You'll laugh harder.
Seth Rogen is, he doesn't shy away from challenging subject matter.
No, he doesn't.
So I thought as our featured cast that it would be nice to talk about Fior. I know, Fior. Right? We lost Fior. That's very sad.
I'm having a hard time with that. Like, I'm having a hard time. Like, the entire town blew up at the end of episode 1. So we lost everyone from the entire first season except for 4 characters. Which,
I'd forgotten about Walter until Tulip was like, I know that he wasn't much, but he was the only family I had. And I was like, when they were at the
when they were at the strip club, and she's like, what are y'all watching? And it didn't click with her, and I was like, I didn't even get that it didn't click with her. I just thought that she didn't care. Like, who cares if Anvil blew up, But then when she, like, they burst in and she's watching the TV and she's got that just shocked look on her face.
Right.
Like, oh, yeah, it affected her. Yeah.
So Fior is a guy named Tom Brooke, and he was born in London in 1978. And get this, he has multiple small credits. He has 2 episodes of Game of Thrones under his belt.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I will have to figure out which one he is. And
I didn't write the name down of his character, but I thought it would be fun for someone who was a fan of that series to go back and look. He is 6.
I'm curiously clicking now.
He's 6'1", which is not a surprise, right? Tall, lanky dude.
Yeah.
And his dad is an actor named Paul Brooke.
Huh.
Let's see. In addition to Preacher, he is known for a recurring role in Sherlock. And he was also in another movie that looks really good. It's called Pirate Radio.
Oh, yes. I was actually just doing some research for on Pirate Radio, and a little movie from the 90s called Pump Up the Volume, because Rob with Southgate Media is doing a podcasting book, and Diane and I have been asked to write chapters, but of course, like everything, we're behind on that.
And we're doing it together, like everything.
Yes, the Real Housewives. But that's actually, pirated radio is actually kind of my podcasting. It's the podcasting before the internet. And that's what actually kind of got me interested in podcasts when they first started to get big, is I was like, oh my God, it's like pirate radio that, everyone has a voice and you can just say anything.
That's awesome.
There's no FCC, there's no rules, you just put it out there, so
I have to totally digress again. My favorite murder. Which if I have not mentioned it on Preacher, I've mentioned it everywhere else.
That's so funny, because I was just thinking about it before the podcast.
Oh my God, I love it.
I keep saying, so here's the thing, which is something they say on the show all the time. So.
I think probably you're in a cult, call your dad is my favorite expression. So for people who don't know, My Favorite Murder is a true crime podcast, and it is funny and poignant and morbid and just awesome.
Very morbid. If you are looking for hard and fast facts about serial killers and true crime,
don't listen to that podcast.
Don't listen to that podcast. If you're looking for inappropriate humor, then listen to the podcast.
And some really killer stories. And I don't mean to use the word killer loosely, but the story of Mary Vincent still sticks with me.
Yeah.
It was an amazing story. I actually read a book about it after they podcasted that episode.
And the thing that they do at the end of the episode when they have
Elvis?
The thing when they they interview someone, they read a story
Right.
from
Oh, they do a hometown
listeners.
murder. Yeah.
Yeah, hometown, like that may have not made it big in the media, but something that just affected you. And I remember something that affected me when I was young here in Juneau, Alaska. A murder that happened, and so it's just it really made me think, and it kind of makes me think, whenever you see like things that happen, there's so much media attention now that sometimes small things do hit the national news, but it's definitely all over your Facebook wall and now everything.
Right.
So yeah, it's really interesting.
Well,
yeah, it's a good podcast.
The reason I brought them up is that tonight on the Discovery Channel there is a new series premiering called American Ripper.
Oh my goodness. Because I need to watch more TV.
Well, the theory is that, and we're totally off track of Preacher, you guys, I'm so sorry, but the theory is that H.H. Holmes, who was a serial killer who operated during the 1893 World's Fair in Chicago, was actually Jack the Ripper as well.
See, that's so interesting. Like the unsolved ones, my other half and I argue all the time because we'll talk about the Zodiac killer, and he's like, they caught the Zodiac, and I'm like, no, they didn't. Well, there were two Zodiacs.
I didn't know that.
There were two killers labeled the Zodiac killer. So
you're both right.
They caught one and they didn't catch the other. So, and they seem to be very, very unrelated. They happen on opposite sides of the U.S. and they happened like decades apart, I think, if I remember right. But yeah, so we get it confused all the time. I can't remember which one they caught and which one. I think of one in California they didn't catch. So, and there was also two Night Stalkers. Richard Ramirez was not the only Night Stalker.
I think I knew that.
Yeah. So.
Well, one more digression about My Favorite Murder, and then we'll go back to Preacher. So there's also a book club that sprung up from their Facebook page.
Oh, my goodness.
It's called Wine and Murderinos. And we just read The Devil in the White City, which is about H.H. Holmes. And if you're looking for a fascinating true history book that actually parallels the construction of the 1893 World's Fair with the emergence of H.H. Holmes as a serial killer, fascinating book. I would have never read so much and learned so much about the World's Fair, which was super cool.
So I actually am very behind on listening to their podcast because I'm trying to listen to a political podcast that started in January. We'll leave it at that. And
wait. Is it Save Our Podcast?
Pod Save the World.
Pod Save the World. Yeah, I've been listening to that too, thanks to you, and I really like it. Okay, go ahead.
So I actually had to. I have to tell you, if you listen to My Favorite Murder, you will become a rabid fan like Diane and I.
And you'll binge. Like crazy. You'll binge like crazy,
and you will post incessantly on their Facebook page. And I actually had to hide their Facebook page because it was like 90% of my Facebook feed. I was seeing nothing else but My Favorite Murder posts. So I actually had to go and hide their page. I still like it and I still go to it and everything, but people just post all of the time.
Yes, they do. Who knew there were so many true crime aficionados out there?
We're all crazy and sick. That's why everyone should watch Preacher, because it's crazy and sick and funny.
That is an excellent segue, because I was like, and what were we talking about again? We were talking about Fior. We were talking about Tom Brooke.
Yes.
And we got from Game of Thrones to My Favorite Murder.
Yes.
So, because we were talking about pirate radio and podcasting. So there you go.
Yeah.
Anyway, he trained at the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Arts, so he's got some pretty fine chops there.
Huh.
Yeah, interesting guy. And, I don't know, maybe we'll see him again, but I'm not sure we're going to.
If you put some pancake makeup on him and some wing-tipped eyeliner and some lipstick, he looks like Boy George.
Oh, you're right!
Right?
Now we know who's going to play Boy George in the biopic about him.
Okay, so at the end scene when, spoiler alert, you should have watched by now if you're listening to this.
Right.
When he finally dies in the end and he's like kind of slumped backwards in the chair staring up.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, that is Boy George.
All you need is that crazy hat and some faux dreadlocks.
Right. Yeah. Now my earworm is "Do You Really Want to Hurt Me?" playing over and over in my head. You're welcome.
You're terrible, Muriel. So
funny.
We might as well move into our 3 categories. So what's your good news? What's your gospel?
My good news was a strip joint that plays smooth jazz.
Right?
What was like what? Yeah, you walk in there and you expect the thumping music and everything and the women gyrating around, but there's a live band and smooth jazz. I'm like, this place isn't real. They stepped into another dimension. There's no strip joint that plays smooth jazz, but apparently there is.
I really love the idea of God traveling around looking for great jazz. I think that's really funny.
And finding it in a strip joint named Shisha. But I loved the whole scene in Tammy's office when they were arguing back and forth whether or not to use Genesis.
Right. Because we had the opening scene where Tulip was like, I don't like this. It's mind control. I don't like it. And then she kind of went into that again with Tammy and she was like, oh, to hell with it. Just use it.
Yeah. Like that whole argument back and forth with, Cassidy in the background fighting with the bouncer and the stripper
so funny.
And just Tammy just thinking these people are nuts, and just that whole scene just made me laugh out loud. I absolutely loved it. And I have to tell you, I watched last night was my first watch, and then I fell asleep before that scene. I was out of it last night, and so that's why I think this morning when I was like, it was very, very meh, and then today when I got home from work, I watched the rest of the episode, and I was like, oh my God, that is hilarious. And then I watched episode 2 and I'm like, this is amazing.
So I have to ask, because I meant to do it and I just realized I didn't do it. Did you happen to look up who the band was?
I didn't.
Because I'm just curious. I wonder if there's anything on... I wonder if it's particular musicians and you and I just don't know it because we don't particularly follow jazz.
No, and what's funny is I do like jazz. I like smooth jazz. I like
that kind of jazz.
Yeah, I like very bluesy, slow. Yeah, not the wild and crazy, which we're probably going to see coming up in New Orleans. But
right.
Yeah.
Although I don't know, we might see some really cool old-fashioned jazz.
Yeah,
that'd be really awesome.
Yeah. New Orleans is on the bucket list.
I'm trying to see if I can...
Who can Google faster?
I'm on Google, but I'm not getting anything. Who was the jazz band in Preacher TV?
Back Jazz Band 2, BAK. The BAK.
Was it?
Jazz Band 2 performs the Preacher.
No, because they're just performing a song called The Preacher.
No.
And now it's probably playing... Ooh! Okay, that was not them. I don't know if you heard that or if anybody else did, but that was not them.
I did not hear it.
Funny.
Did you get something a little more than a strip joint?
It wasn't as cool as the strip joint music.
Okay.
Yeah, not nearly as cool. Oh, wait a minute. Here we go. So... There's an article that mentions it, so let's see if they mention who the band was. It's called Looking for God in All the Wrong Places.
That's the name of the jazz band?
No, that's the name of the article.
Oh, okay.
Let's see.
Well, obviously it wasn't that wrong. They got a lead.
Right. I'm still looking.
We may have to post it to the Facebook page when this episode comes out.
I'm still looking at the... I know, right? I'm not successful here, man.
Yeah. So it will have to remain a mystery like God's whereabouts.
I don't know about that. But, so the person who wrote this article kind of blends both, like we're doing, blends both episodes into one, but it's not really covering. Huh. Okay. No, it doesn't say anything other than before she dies, she confesses that God came there not for the strippers, but for the jazz band, but it doesn't say who the jazz band was. So if there's anybody listening and anyone knows who the jazz band was, please tell us because they were cool.
Yeah, they deserve some love.
Yep. And I wouldn't mind finding their music and listening to their music. I liked it that much.
Yeah. So what was your good?
So I had two because I couldn't really choose. And the first one that I wrote down was Fjore's arc, including the end, including his death. And I really have to say, I think my favorite part of his story was when he and Cass were getting high and just playing around.
Okay, that's my good ugly.
Yeah, it was awesome. So for people who don't know what we're talking about when we say good ugly, that's an old rating system that comes from Biters before I started working on Biters. And
I'm out of practice with Preacher.
That's okay. It's okay. So you can have your good ugly tonight.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just really love that, and I love the scene with Cassidy, and I also liked that Cassidy tried to pin him down and was like, well, do you miss your partner?
Sex?
And yeah. It was really good. And I don't think we ever got a totally clear answer.
You don't think, like, at the end when he hugs Cassidy and they kind of give each other a look. Like something happened after the Archie comics in Hot Tub.
Oh, so you think Cass and Fjord?
You know, he's nursing a broken heart with Tulip. Maybe he tried to get her out of his mind.
You know, he is quite an elderly vampire, so I can see that he would quite easily swing both ways.
Oh yeah.
And
I think he swings any way that, like, the wind blows. Yeah.
Any way that satisfies Cassidy. That's funny.
Yeah. I loved his drug cocktail and that he insisted on mineral water.
And I loved it when he was like, right, next time less heroin. I looked at my husband and I was like, he just killed Fjord.
It's so funny. And Fjore's like, I have a 6 p.m. curtain time. I'm like, well, if he's too high, you just kill him and he reappears in a new body. Fresh
And then
as a daisy.
Kablam! Yeah, no, I really loved that scene. And I think in a lot of ways it really humanized Fjord. It was really fun.
Yeah, it was very, very heartbreaking that, like when he came in and like hung himself and then just tried to kill himself in every, and it's like, I don't know why he kept doing it because he knew it wasn't going to work. I mean, was it like, okay, well, maybe if I like shoot myself in the head, like, cause we've seen the angels die before and come back. And so, like, did he just think that there was just the right way he could do it and not come back? Or
well, and why didn't DeBlanc come back?
Well, and that was the question because, and we questioned that at the end of season 1. Mm-hmm. It was like, well, is he going to come back? Like, maybe they don't come back in hell. Maybe like they pop up someplace else. Maybe you just can't reincarnate in hell. You reincarnate like at the bus stop or whatever.
Well, and Cassidy answered asked the question too. He was like,
right.
Okay, if you live in heaven, where do you go when you die?
Right, and Fjord was like, "That's the question, isn't it?"
Mm-hmm.
And so, I kind of actually, in a way, I hope that we find out the answer and that we see Fjord Blanc again.
I do too.
In another way, maybe it's just left to our own imagination, and maybe they can't film anything as good as what we imagine.
Right. I mean, we always talk on The Walking Dead about how realistic it would be for someone to just disappear and for us to never hear from them again. And maybe this is the arc in Preacher where someone just disappears and we never hear from them again.
Right. Right.
We,
So
we don't even hear that their town was blown up in a storm of manure.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, on the one hand, I would be interested to know where angels go when they die,
Right?
but on the other hand, I kind of don't think they can top, my image of Fior and DeBlanc, like, running towards each other in a field
Now I'm going to have that image too.
uh, to Boy George.
Right. Do you really want to hurt me? So the other thing that was in my good was just the scene with Come On Eileen, where they were running from the cops because, they start out and they're like, this is a horrible song, terrible shite. And then,
Oh yeah.
they're all kind of bobbing their heads and they start singing along.
That's a pretty it's a kind of a common shtick. They like Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle. They did that with Wilson Phillips song,
Oh,
like
you're
by
right.
the end of it.
It's been a long time since I've watched that movie, which I really love. And you're right.
Yeah, and like we've all done that where something comes on the radio, you're like, oh God, not this song again, or I hate this song. And by the end of it, you are fully invested, and people at the stoplight are looking at you like you're nuts.
I was kind of like, yeah, Come On Eileen is a shite song. And then I was like, Come On Eileen.
Yep. Yep. That's so fun.
What was your book of Job? What made you sad, or what was a particular travail for our characters?
It was very, very tiny, and it did not involve any of the main characters.
Oh, really?
But what is my one rule whenever it's a TV show or a movie or book, anything?
Don't kill the
Never
animal.
kill the dog.
Right.
Yes. The cowboy killed the dog.
They kill the religious scholar's dog.
Yeah, I'm like, you know what? You can kill all the people in the hotel or whatever. Don't kill the dog.
But another great line: "You killed my dog and you broke my door. What else do you want?"
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I thought that was sad.
I really didn't have a lot of bad. Like I said, the first episode for me was very meh right up until the end. So I really didn't have a lot of bad. But, I mean, definitely my go-to, it will always and forever be Don't Kill the Dog.
Well, my bad was just Cassidy's sadness, my book of Job, because it wasn't really bad, but it made me sad. It was watching him go through those trials and tribulations.
Yeah.
I mean, the scene where he's kind of watching Tulip and you see her through his eyes and he's just so smitten in the first episode, and then the stuff where he's like, "What? You're getting married?" And him like laying in bed while they're banging away at the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I was like, oh, that's awful. And by the way, just for everyone's information, shower curtain rods in hotels are not that strong.
You're so funny.
Just gonna say that.
Personal experience?
Maybe. You will not get your deposit back.
Oh, that's funny.
Then again, if you kick down the door to have sex, you're probably not getting your deposit.
I was kind of wondering about that. I'm like, wow, Jesse, that's a big move.
Well, and he punched through it. He didn't even he kicked it at the end, but he was punching. I'm like, why are you punching it?
I will have to say that my recollection from the comic books, and I need to go back and look at them again, is that it wasn't quite so easy for Jesse and Tulip to get back together as it was in these first couple of episodes. And I'm cool with that.
We have to condense it for the, you can go on and on in the comics, but I think in the show it wouldn't translate if you dragged it out.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, I really am totally cool with it because it's funny and it's sweet. But yeah, it was they had more challenges as a couple in the comics. And they're pretty challenged in this series.
Yeah. Yeah. But so
then revelations or revelation, what was like the thing that was surprising to you, or the thing that you were like, oh wow, okay.
I really liked the whole scene with Cassidy and Fior. From the very beginning when he was getting Fior high. And I thought he was doing it just to kind of like not just buddy up with him, but and of course we first see Cassidy with his like blowtorch, and he's like in a rubber smock, and you're like, he's gonna torture the information out of Fior, but it was completely the other way around. He totally bromanced him, and you know, I kind of thought he was getting him high to kind of like soothe his broken heart for DeBlanc, but and we finally got the joke with you know, oh, by the way, I'm Fior. DeBlanc was the other one.
That was so good.
Yeah. Yeah. So I really like that. I mean, the whole pillow fights and forts and reading Archie comics in the hot tub and ice cream made out of foreskin.
And Frisbee? Ice cream made out of that they were missing their face cream.
They needed to have little cucumber slices over their eyes. Yeah. Yeah, it was I absolutely loved it. I mean, it was another moment where I laughed out loud. It was very funny, and I really hope this is the harbinger for the rest of the series, and that like it's like it has its funny moments, its laugh out loud moments. It's not so serious and you know, story driven, that we have these little side adventures where we laugh.
So I'm going to tick people off again, but I said to you before we logged on tonight that I have just struggled so hard with Fear the Walking Dead, and it feels like such a chore that it was a pleasure to do this. I was like, I'm excited about watching this. I'm excited about talking about this. It is not a struggle.
Yeah, I know. Like we were talking about podcasting time tonight, and I hadn't watched the second episode yet, and you were like,
not either. Yeah,
you were like 9:00, and I'm like 9:00's a little late to start podcasting, and you're like, I'll go late for Preacher. So yeah, I totally had my second wind after watching the second episode. Yeah, so I really hope that it picks up and takes off. I did see a headline that said they have filed the paperwork to film in New Orleans for season 3.
Yay!
Yeah, so I think that kind of means that we're on the road for this entire season.
That's awesome.
Yeah, maybe we won't get to New Orleans until season 3, but...
Or they'll land in New Orleans and stay there for a while, but...
Yeah, maybe we'll see a little bit of New Orleans this season, and it was just a formality that they had to, you know, a more permanent filing for filming, like, a longer term for season 3.
Well, that makes me really happy to know that there are plans for a season 3.
Yeah. So, I thought that there was going to be a season 3, at least to tie it up if the ratings aren't there. But yeah, I'm really hoping that it picks up with season 2.
So while I was looking for information about the jazz band, I found this article at nerdreactor.com, and the title is AMC's Preacher Keeps Momentum Going with a Second Season Opener. And the first couple of sentences are, last year's debut of the epic AMC series Preacher took many people by surprise. From its genius mix of cheeky writing, no-holds-barred action, and no shortage of scenes with blood and gore, AMC has gone and done it again. It's created another smash hit that will have fans at the edge of their couches.
Oh, that's amazing.
So I'm really, really, really hoping that is completely true, because I love this series. I just do.
I'd be interested to see the Live +7 for the episodes, because the Allison Herman with The Ringer writes, Preacher hit the reset button and it's paying off. Starting your second season more or less from scratch is a risky TV move, but it's one that's working for the AMC drama.
Well, and the funny thing is I personally did not feel like they needed to hit the reset button, but But nonetheless, I'm thrilled. I think it was fantastic. So
Right. Personally, I don't think they needed to hit the reset button, but for the masses to be able to consume Preacher, I think it needed a reset in order to survive.
Right.
And I wouldn't classify it as a drama. I would classify it as a comedy.
I'm not sure where I would classify it because it's got such great elements of both.
Adventure.
There you go. So what have you got in your word, which is kind of just our notes for the series or for the series opener?
I had it. There was a cute thing at the beginning of episode 1. Tulip would not leave her car, and I kept thinking about you.
Oh my God, that's so funny because I looked at my husband and I was like,
a girl in her
after
car.
my own heart.
A girl in her car.
Yeah.
Yep, that was amazing. I absolutely love that. That struck me because you have a Dodge with the name Tulip.
And I still haven't gotten my vanity plates, but I need to because I'm convinced that she needs vanity plates that have Tulip on them as well.
So I have a Coast Guard orange 72 Jeep Commando sitting in my side driveway at my house.
That's hilarious.
And
are you gonna get Cassidy plates?
I need to get plates for it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I'm like, because my other half got the vanity plates for our main vehicle, and it's his character name that he always uses in his MMOs.
Oh, right.
I won't reveal it here, but it's his character name. So he got to name our main car. We are buying a truck this year, but the 72 Jeep Commando is mine. Like it's the car I basically learned to drive on. And so it's just a Cassidy looking vehicle. I mean, it's an old, cool looking, it's got a few dents in it, but it's still like in really good shape. And like, I'm just like, I look at it and I'm like, that is Cassidy.
So for anyone who loved American Gods as much as I did, Nick has named our truck Bilquis.
Oh,
we have a giant black Silverado 3500 diesel, and he's named it Bilquis. If you don't know what that is, look it up. Bilquis.
That's funny. That's funny.
Oh my God.
For as much as we love The Walking Dead, look at us naming our cars after all the other shows that we podcast about.
Well, I do have Michonne's katana, so.
Very true.
Very true. One of the things that was straight out of the comic book was the scene where the cowboy kills all of the cops.
Yes, we have not talked about the cowboy yet.
Right. I mean,
yeah.
I hate to say it, but we're going so late. Which is fine. But also just the stuff that Jesse had the cops do, where he told that one cop to mace his balls.
Yeah.
We laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed. But that stuff is all out of the comic book. When the car rolled over that cop's head and crushed it, and Cassidy was crawling along underneath the car trying to stay in the shade.
Yeah.
We laughed and laughed and laughed.
I can't remember what Jesse said when he had the umbrella and he's like, "You ready to go, Cass?" Just like it was something to that effect, and it was so irreverent and funny that that was another laugh out loud moment.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. And then at the Relax Inn when the Cowboys come in, and Jesse orders everyone to shoot him because there's the gun lover convention.
Right.
And
I've got to stop saying right.
The chick has a grenade launcher, and I'm like, Texas, gods, guns, and grenade launcher.
It was great. And they finally revealed the cowboy as the Saint of Killers, which that was his name in the comic books, so...
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know if we knew this or not, but I found it interesting that the word doesn't work on him.
I don't think we knew that. Because I was like, ooh, Jesse, that's not good. And it sounds like the word would work on Fior. I mean, it did work on Fior.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work on the cowboy.
Yeah. How does that work? Like, why do prisoners in hell get more, like, tools than full on angels? Like,
or is it some part of the pact that he made with the angels?
Yeah. Well, he is the saint of killers. So, I mean, he's a saint. I mean,
what does that mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Graham McTavish was great. Seeing him on Talking Preacher, I was like, that's not even the same guy.
Oh, God. He's, I like crusty old, like, cowboy or sailor looking guys. So, I'm a huge Sam Elliott fan.
Oh, me too.
He's coming out in a new movie, and I'm like, God, like, that guy, like, he made it to, like, 50 and, like, kind of stopped aging. Like,
yes.
They must keep him in Tupperware somewhere. Like,
I keep telling my husband that if I'm getting remarried at any point, if he dies before me, I'm marrying a cowboy. It may be hard to find a cowboy who shares some of my worldviews, but...
Marriage is for suckers, Tulip.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
What else? I've got so many notes we could go and go and go.
Yeah, we definitely could.
I loved the intestine siphon hose. And apparently Yoo-hoo drink makes it all better.
That's funny.
It cracked me up, I mean, Cassidy starts naming off all these things and he's like, trust me, drink the Yoo-hoo. And then he got a cat. Cassidy ate the cat at the gas station or drank the cat's blood. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And when you said intestines, I was thinking of when Fior was cut in half.
Oh,
and
yeah.
They spread it apart and all of his innards spill out. Like,
no, I was talking about the siphon hose.
Oh, okay.
At the gas station.
Yeah. I have to say, like, that's another thing I had a hard time with last season is when Cassidy killed the dog, when Tulip brought Cassidy the dog to eat.
When he, like, ate all of those animals from the SPCA and the pet stores. I know. So,
like, I love cats too, but I'm super allergic to them, so I'm not quite as attached to them. But, yeah, like, don't kill the cat either, but... I don't know. I have a slightly...
But if you're going to drink blood, drink the cat, not the dog.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. In the zombie apocalypse, my neighbors need to watch their cats because I'll feed them to my dogs.
Oh, one of my dogs tried to eat one of my cats tonight. I still haven't seen her. She ran away.
Oh, no.
I know. Hopefully she'll come back and she's fine. At least she had enough gumption and energy to run away after he had her in his jaws. So
oh, no.
I know, it's always something.
Oh.
I know, right? It's terrible. Terrible, terrible.
My dogs have only ever tried to eat smaller dogs.
They just haven't had access.
It's only when they're charging at me. Like, we've like pet sit and fostered smaller dogs. But if we're walking and another dog like charges at us, like no matter how big it is, but it's usually the smaller dogs because smaller dogs have a chip on their shoulder. There have been 4 dogs in our neighborhood that my husky has picked up and shook.
Oh,
they're all off leash. My dog's on leash. It's fine. Like, they weren't hurt.
That can be fatal.
It can be, but like he's got a very soft mouth, so so yeah, he probably would have been a good duck dog, except for the fact that if he's off leash, he's a husky. He'll run. Like, just I don't care about the bird. I'll run. Yeah.
So I also had to make a comment about another really funny line. The guy that they went and saw, who was the religious scholar, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
He's talking about the parishioners who he puts in cages, and he says, parishioners need help with their urges, drugs, sex, Twitter. And I'm going to get political. I think it was a direct reference on the part of the authors to our tweeter-in-chief.
I think there's a lot of people that need help with Twitter. He's just the most famous.
Right. That's true. I rather enjoy Twitter, but there are a lot of people who really screw it up.
I still every time I see like Talking Dead, like anytime I see anything to do with Chris Hardwick and he involves Twitter, I'm like, God, I need to join Twitter. Yeah, I still have not joined Twitter. There's a Boylesque group, and for those of you who don't know, Boylesque is burlesque with boys, with guys, and boys is in like adult men.
They would be at hee-hees rather than she-shees.
She-shees, exactly. There's a member of Mod Carousel that's from Juneau, Alaska, and so they come here about every year, and they were joking. They actually weren't joking about like they do photo shoots in the Alaskan wilderness, and they're tasteful nudes, strategically placed branches and stuff. And they said that they were like, Facebook will put the PG ones, the rated R ones, and we'll put on Twitter. And I was like, oh, funny. I need Twitter. But then somebody would lock me in a cage.
Right. Mike would lock me in a cage. Except Mike sacrificed himself to keep himself from telling about Jesse and where Jesse went.
He did. And, you know, like, there was a lot of really predictable scenes in the two shows where I'm like, maybe I just have sick enough humor that, like, I know where they're going with this. But the knife, I was like, what is he going to do? Try and stab the cow? And then he stabbed himself. I'm like, wow. Like, Jesse has a good enough friend, and that guy believes enough in God that, you know, he was willing to sacrifice himself, which is a mortal sin, you know? So...
Wonder if he thought about that. I wonder if he squared that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe you would think there would be a loophole, but...
Well, if any series about God has ever suggested that perhaps there is a loophole, I would say this is the one.
Yeah, because, like, you're sacrificing yourself for a friend and for God. So, like, you would think, like... When I'm gonna screw up the joke. The god from American Gods, Anubis, reaches in and weighs your heart. You would think that that would give some credence to him passing on to a better place.
Let's hope.
Yeah.
Although I don't think Anubis is in this universe.
No, something tells me that of all the wacky, crazy, wild things that are going to go on, Anubis isn't going to show up.
Probably not one of them.
No, I don't think so. Yeah. But I absolutely loved how Fior kept killing himself. My favorite was him when he became the amazing Ganesh. He takes the microphone and he puts in the ice bucket and electrocutes himself.
I think, really, honestly, my favorite was probably when Cassidy killed him with a heroin overdose.
Yeah, that was pretty good because it was so unexpected. He shot it into his neck, and then all of a sudden you see a flash from the bathroom, and you're like, whoops, less heroin next time. Yeah, definitely an hour and a half worth of show worth watching.
I agree.
Yeah,
although AMC is still killing me with all of their ads. They're killing me.
AMC is just killing me in general. I have to get my shows through other means. I can't just DVR them anymore. And so, yeah.
That just means you're that much more committed to this and Biters because you do it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I actually had a very hard time not watching episode 3 tonight, because when we're behind, I do not watch the next episode because I do not want it to taint whatever I'm saying about current episodes. So I haven't seen episode 3.
I haven't either.
And I had a very hard time not pressing play on episode 3, and I didn't even realize episode 4 was out.
Although, can I be honest again about Fear the Walking Dead? I'm not having a hard time with the fact that we're behind on that and we need to catch up.
Yeah.
I'm really not.
Yeah, the last episode was actually better than it had been, so Yeah.
All I have to say is jump the shark.
I
We'll see. We'll see
haven't
if we
seen it
both.
yet.
I haven't either, but we'll see if we both agree that the shark has been jumped because
Yeah.
it was painful. The description that I received was painful.
Yeah. So, what do you think Jesse envisioned when he told Fior to find peace?
I don't think he envisioned that Fior would die and not come back. I think that he was really. I mean, I think that he was trying to do a kindness, and I think he was really trying to let Fior out of his grief and to make him actually give a damn about things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he said, "I don't give an F."
And, I don't know if Fior had decided before that, but he kept the cowboy on Jesse, on our trio's tail.
Right.
Because he said that Jesse won't stop using it, and it is dangerous because, I mean, Jesse had the best of intentions of using it this time, and it's still backfired. At least I think it backfired. I mean, Fior, maybe he did find peace. Maybe he found DeBlanc in some afterlife for angels, but it's definitely not. I don't think it's the way Jesse intended, and
Right.
so
I
it just
agree.
goes to show that it is very, very dangerous, and that's why he didn't call the cowboy off.
Well, and when Jesse used the word with the cops ended up being bait for the cowboy. When he used the word with the people who were congregating at the hotel, the Second Amendment people, they ended up being fodder for the cowboy. So
Well, and he intended it, and well, I guess he didn't intend to. Like he wanted the cowboy, he wanted to stop the cowboy, and then they became cannon fodder. He tried to save them, but in the end, he kind of used it to his own benefit. It wasn't so selfless when he was using it against the cowboy, and other people died because of it. So, he tries to be selfless in saving other people, telling the creeper to stop last season, but he's human and he tells people to go to hell. And we haven't seen Eugene in like 5 episodes.
right, although Ian Coletti does still have credit in the series.
Yeah, I was going to say, you do see some flashes of him in
the previews.
The previews.
Yeah.
So we will see Eugene this season, whether it's in hell or if some way he manages to come back or otherwise. So it will be an interesting season.
And I think Jesse's intentions and his intentions not always being what manifests when he uses the word, it goes back to what we talked about at the very, very beginning, which is that the preacher in Africa was too good for Genesis. Mm-hmm. The Satanist in Russia was too evil for Genesis. Tom Cruise was too crazy for Genesis.
All hail Zeno. I don't know what you're talking about.
But
don't dox me, Scientology.
But Jesse really has kind of all of those parts together. And so he's a balance for Genesis.
He is a bad guy with good intentions.
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah. And I think Tulip is a good girl with bad intentions. And Cassidy's just along for the ride because he loves Tulip and has nothing better to do in his immortality.
Well, and what you just said about Tulip, it makes me think about when she was talking about Walter. And and that was a really poignant moment in the season opener as well. Just saying, I know he wasn't much, but he was the only family I had. And when she was talking about him coming to her kindergarten day in a suit and tie.
Yeah, that really struck a chord with me. That was tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had a little bit of numbers, but nothing that really hit the nail on the head. Okay. They flashed. They like to do the clocks, the countdown clocks, and So we had 2 hours and 45 minutes, which I was like, that's really specific. Like
Right.
that has to be something. And it really wound up not being anything. The only thing I could really find, there's some in Daniel and some in Luke, but nothing
that really spoke to what was going on.
Yeah. And then there was 3 minutes and 27 seconds and 3 minutes and 26 seconds. And again, nothing that really spoke to the episodes or the scenes or anything. They're just... The Bible is broken up in really weird ways. And they were just like random sentences. So...
Oh my God, do we need to retain a religious scholar for this podcast?
Only if he will sacrifice himself to save me at some point.
I think that's fair.
Me or my dog.
Right.
So,
Well,
I don't have anything else.
You know, like I said, I've got notes and notes and notes, and I could keep us going, but we're at about an hour and a half, which I think is probably the max of anyone's tolerance for us.
Yeah. So, our next episode is entitled Damsels, which that kind of sounds interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So,
is Tulip the damsel, or are there other damsels? Or maybe I'm just being really sexist and there's a guy who's the damsel?
I was talking with my coworker today. That's so funny. She says that her niece wants to be a princess and her mother's indulging her, and she's trying to instill that she doesn't have to be a princess. And I said, you can be a princess, you just don't have to be a damsel.
I love it.
You can wear pink, but you can also rule the world. So
I like it.
Yeah. Alrighty.
Well, Cassidy.
Till the end of the world.
Till the end of the world.
Good night, Tulip.
All right. I love you. We'll talk soon.
Good night.
Everybody take care out there.
I left his body in the woods, and I took off running south. I left his body